Good day, America. Good day, and thank you for joining the Truth to Freedom podcast, real talk for real people. And so we thank you for joining us today. Of course, my name is James Parker, one half of the podcast host, and my other partner in crime, Mr. Quentin Williams. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
All is well, sir. Can't complain. Glad all that rain is gone because I was thinking I was had to build me an ark or something. I'm gonna tell you.
That and yeah, trying to cut your grass. It rained, quit raining for half a day, and then you think you got a chance to cut your grass, and it'll rain later on that day.
I know. It was a mess, but thank God it's past us now. So all right. America, we want to have a discussion about welfare. We've had myself and Quinn have had several discussions about it, but we figured we'll do a show on it because I think people need to have an understanding. They might not. Some people may not know where welfare comes from. I know probably the newer generation may not even understand where welfare comes from. They might not even know what welfare is. And the changes that it's going through. For some of us older folks, we know what it is, but maybe we don't know what the changes are and whatnot. So we want to have a conversation about it because Quentin brought up a good point. When we talk about the infrastructure of government and where your tax dollars go to, you would think that we would have programs to give people a helping hand, not a handout, but a helping hand, which you'll see. We're going to show a video here in a little bit, which you'll see that, that was the purpose, even though it was all political, why they did what they did, but it was a purpose to give people a hand up during a time of disparity and depression and things of this nature. But you would think your tax dollars would be utilized to help those in need when they need it and not penalize them and so forth. So we just want to have a discussion about that. Anything you want to add there, Quentin?
No. The video is very interesting, very informative. And well, I will say this. I think that a lot of ideas on welfare, and they'll talk about this in the video, is that the media villainize people as if they were lazy and they didn't work. But in the beginning, that wasn't the case. Um, because of I guess underfunding, it kind of put people in bad situations because there was no more pretty much job training placement.
Right.
But the video will talk about it. We can talk about it, discuss more after we see the video.
Okay. Yeah. Quentin had sent, well, he had sent several videos that we were watching between each other just to get more of a research and a base to have our conversation. But he did find this one video that was very, very detailed and kind of gave a history and everything leading up to how just welfare was used and who initiated and who did this and that. So we're going to show the video first so we all be on the same page. We're also going to have a link to this video in the description. So when you log on, if you go into the description page, I'm gonna have a link there so you can link onto it yourself and see it for yourself the entirety, which you're going to see now. But if you want to go back and refer to it, so if y'all just give me a chance to share my screen, and we're going to watch this video. So here we go.
How many years have you gone without a job?
I can't think how long. It's been a long time.
Welfare reform.
By the mid-1990s, a drumbeat of media attention had convinced many Americans that people on welfare were either cheats.
With wigs and disguises, she conned welfare workers into believing she was 12 different people.
Or loafers.
Some people on welfare make more money than people that are working.
Why should we have to pay for you to sit at home, watch your soap operas?
The number of Americans receiving cash benefits had hit a record 14 million. And Republicans wanted radical change.
They create a culture of poverty and a culture of violence which is destructive of this civilization.
So how did a Democrat become the one to do away with this once sacred entitlement?
Today we are ending welfare as we know it.
And 20 years later, How are the poor doing without it?
The President of the United States signed the measure, an act to safeguard children, to help working men and women forestall poverty and want.
Created in the 1930s to help destitute widows with children, welfare had evolved into a $25 billion entitlement, serving a growing number of unwed mothers.
My mother had me when she was 16, and I had him when I was 16.
Welfare has proliferated and grown into a leviathan of unsupportable dimensions.
Republicans had been trying to overhaul welfare for decades.
I think the Republican diagnosis was accurate, that there were way too many moms on welfare. If they would get jobs, it would be better for them, and better for their kids, and better for society.
But in a political twist, it was a Democrat in 1992 who grabbed onto the issue and made it his own.
They're a new generation of Democrats, Bill Clinton and Al Gore, and they don't think the way the old Democratic Party did.
Welfare should be a second chance, not a way of life.
Bill Clinton proposed putting time limits on cash assistance and requiring recipients to go to work, an approach that appealed to conservative voters having doubts about the young governor from Arkansas.
During the New Hampshire primary, he was in trouble. He had maybe evaded the draft a little bit. Maybe he had used marijuana, but maybe he didn't inhale. There was talk of womanizing Jennifer Flowers. So yes, welfare was very important to his being nominated.
No one wants to change the welfare system as badly as those who are trapped in it.
Once in office, Clinton's focus was on creating jobs for welfare mothers. But Republicans sought more punitive measures.
Let's talk about what the welfare state has created. Let's talk about the moral decay.
To curb soaring out-of-wedlock births, they proposed cutting off welfare to unwed mothers who continued to have children.
Don't feed the alligators.
In a bitter debate, a Republican congressman compared welfare recipients to animals living off handouts, while a Democrat invoked Nazi Germany.
This Republican proposal certainly isn't the Holocaust, but I'm concerned. They're coming for our children. They're coming for the poor.
Clinton vetoed 2 Republican bills as too harsh, but up for re-election in 1996, he signed a third. Welfare recipients would have to find work or else.
After 2 consecutive years on welfare or 5 years over a lifetime, benefits can be cut off, whether or not the recipient has a job.
Many other benefits.
Ron Haskins, who helped draft the Republican bill, says it was a revolution in policy. Americans, no matter how poor, would no longer be guaranteed cash help from the government.
Think of a Democratic president that would sign a welfare reform bill like that. President Gore wouldn't have done it. Kennedy's would have never done it. There are many Republicans that wouldn't have done a bill as tough as the one that was passed in 1996.
There's going to be 1 million children thrust into poverty by this bill.
Peter Edelman and other Clinton administration officials resigned in protest.
Nobody has any legal right to get assistance, so therefore you're free to turn people away. And I was always clear that that spelled big, big, big trouble.
The new law was an experiment, giving individual states vast new powers to decide how to spend welfare funds and who could receive them. What happened next shocked nearly everyone.
The White House announced today that federal efforts to reform welfare have worked even better than expected.
With a booming economy and plentiful jobs, welfare recipients left the rolls in droves, as many as 200,000 a month.
A lot of mothers went to work. 60% of them roughly got jobs. They earned about $8 or $9 an hour. Child poverty declined to its lowest level ever for kids in female-headed families. I mean, that's an astounding change.
Waxler took part in a welfare-to-work training program after being on public assistance for nearly 2 years. Now she supports herself.
The media generally portrayed the new program, called Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF, as a success. By 2000, welfare caseloads had sunk to their lowest level in 30 years.
Anytime you allow the states to have the opportunity to set up programs that are actually going to work in their states, you're going to be much better off.
But that narrative was about to change.
Welfare reform was conceived and implemented in the mid to late 90s when the economy was booming.
But that was then. This is a very different now.
With the new millennium came an economic downturn, and in 2008, the Great Recession.
American workers were laid off the job last month in numbers not seen in over 3 decades.
To make matters worse, state budgets were in free fall, and the hunt was on for new revenues. Jody Liggett worked for the Arizona state government when TANF began.
In a state like Arizona, we're not going to raise taxes on folks, if at all possible. And there is this big fat bag of money with TANF written on the outside of it. The temptation is just too great.
Using their new authority under the welfare law, states siphoned off billions in TANF money to pay for everything from pre-K programs to college scholarships.
The numbers are staggering.
In Arizona, it was foster care.
Nearly 18,000 kids are in the state system.
Arizona moved 75% of its welfare money into child protection and other services, leaving little for job training, child care, and cash assistance for the poor, the core purposes of TANF.
The flexibility in TANF and the things that states did were absolutely perfectly legal. But if you're spending less than 20% of the poverty program on poverty, that really says something about your values.
It's not as if those dollars were removed to build roads and bridges. They were used to support another important function of the safety net, and that's strengthening families. So the monies were not hijacked.
But having spent the money elsewhere, states came up short when demand for welfare spiked during the economic crash. So they changed the rules.
We saw states creating more barriers at the front end to make it harder for families to actually get on assistance. We saw states cutting time limits during a time when there was no work available, not because people didn't need assistance, but because they couldn't get the money back that they had put into other things.
Some states also reduced benefits. Last year, Starsha West, a 26-year-old single mother from Phoenix, applied for TANF for the second time in her young life. Her monthly payment, $237.
At the time, I needed it. Like, me and my kid's father had split, so at the time, I did need it. I wasn't working. I needed to take care of my children.
West also applied for food stamps and began looking for work. She and her children found housing through a local homeless shelter.
I'm grateful for me and my children to have a roof over our head. I see a lot of homeless people, a lot of homeless women with children, so it's kind of hard.
She's lucky to have gotten help. Despite having the third highest poverty rate in the nation, Arizona has moved 27,000 people off welfare since the recession, whether they had a job or not.
There is an overarching mindset that public assistance should be temporary, that it should be reserved for the most needy, and that we should be about helping people get on their way.
The effect of that mindset nationally is that welfare is now a shadow of its former self. 20 years ago, 68 out of every 100 poor families in the U.S. received cash assistance. Today, that number is 23. But in conservative states like Arizona and Indiana, it's 8. In Texas, 5. Louisiana, 4.
Cash assistance is dead, really dead, in more than half of the states in the country. So the consequence is big increases in extreme poverty, deep poverty, incomes that are below half the poverty line.
Today, 46 million Americans live in poverty, nearly half in deep poverty, meaning incomes of around $10,000 a year or less. With cash assistance waning, other government entitlements, like food stamps and disability pensions, have seen record enrollments. Now they're under attack as the new welfare.
The United States of America or the United States of Entitlement.
Taxpayer dollars to buy stuff at an adult store called Kiss My Lingerie.
20 years ago, Bill Clinton had high hopes for welfare reform.
After I sign my name to this bill, welfare will no longer be a political issue.
What does he think now?
I did not foresee that. I didn't foresee this wave, this Tea Party wave, that would believe one more time that poor people are the problem in America.
The former president and his wife, candidate Hillary Clinton, say his landmark law could use improvement and admit that too many who need assistance aren't getting it.
It did far more good than harm, but now, given the changed climate and the aftermath of the crash, the poorest welfare families, about 15% of the total, are worse off. And we should do something for them. And we ought to, all of us who supported it should admit that.
But many conservatives still celebrate welfare reform for ending dependency and cutting rolls from 14 million to 4. Now they want to do to food stamps what was done to welfare, hand over the reins to the states. Ron Haskins says welfare reform brought needed change, but is cautious about giving states too much control of other entitlements.
I have to say that what has happened with welfare reform has caused me to reevaluate my confidence that the states will do the right thing. Because we have states that are very conservative, and they're going to spend the money where they think it should be spent and not where you think it should be spent.
I would characterize TANF 20 years in as a bold experiment that failed. It's this expectation that states will do a better job, but a better job doesn't mean increasing the number of people who are in deep poverty, which is what we saw. I mean, that's what states did.
As for Starsha West, she is now off welfare and food stamps. But like many former welfare recipients, she has joined the ranks of the working poor. Her job at a daycare center pays $9 an hour, leaving her family still below the poverty line.
I'm happy, but if push comes to shove and I had to result in, turning back, then that's just something that I have to do.
But she may not be able to turn back to welfare. In July, Arizona will impose a new time limit on benefits of 1 year, the shortest in the nation. That means roughly 1,600 families could lose cash assistance, including 2,700 children.
So Quentin, they stop sharing. There we go. All right, so that's a lot to unpack. Let me just say this, and again, we pay taxes in order to sustain the infrastructure. And I've always said this about assistance. First of all, I think we give them names. We give these program names that demonize the poor and makes them feel like there's some kind of leech to the system. And it shouldn't be that way. People run into hard times. People run into issues. And a lot of times it's not of their own doing. If a business goes out of, if a job goes out of business, unfortunate circumstances happen in people's lives. And so there will be times in people's lives that they need help. And you don't pay taxes into this system. Why would you not be able to get help? The problem, which is always the problem, is the government. They don't put things in place to where it will be a benefit, a helping hand, and get you back on your feet. Why would you allow people to just collect a check and not hold them accountable and not try to find out what's going on? That doesn't make any sense to me. But this is what they did. Then they had the nerve to turn it over to the states. And they did that, I believe they did that intentionally. Because they knew that those states was going to go rogue. And that's exactly what they did, just as they showed in Arizona. That money was earmarked for a particular program. Dare you take the money and fund your own crap that you think you're supposed to be funding because you don't want to raise the state taxes and all this other stuff. So we're going to take this lump sum of money and use it where we think it's supposed to go to, when it wasn't for that. That money was earmarked to help the poor. And if they had left it that way, they would have helped the poor. But no, they thought they knew better. They better not turn it over to the states. They better keep it federal so that they can regulate it and keep accountability on it. Because you turn it over to the states, we got a bunch of states that are rogue. They don't care about the poor. They do their own thing. You hear when they talk about different issues that's going on, how they talk. They don't care about you. They think you a leech to the system. I'll turn it over to you because I'll keep going on. What you think there, Quinn?
I think that the whole argument about the states, that's always been an argument in political circles in America. You know, they like to say that the whole slavery thing was about states' rights, right?
Right.
Um, but the welfare, I think it was Bill Clinton intended to do good, and in the beginning, it did do good. And then the recession hit, and the country was, you know, in a downward spiral. Um, and that's when Arizona, I think they should have compared some other states and how they handled it.
Mm-hmm.
But Arizona said they took 75% of their money and gave it to, I mean, they still technically gave it to kids, they gave it to families, and but it, like you said, it left it with no job training. So one of the other videos I sent you, they spoke specifically about, and I wrote it down. Let me see. What did they call it? They called it welfare to work training programs.
Yeah, I remember
So,
that. Yeah.
and then when they started spending the money in other areas, there was no funding for welfare to work, and then it left people out to fend for themselves. But when there's no jobs, or you're making $8, $9 an hour, like they, you know, like they said, you're still the working poor.
Right. Right.
Um, I think Bill Clinton did good coming on and like I guess apologizing. That's not the first time he's done it. He did the same thing when he implemented the crime bill. He went on and said, "I made a mistake." I think that shows that's good on his part. But at this point, like the video said, you got people who loved what he did, even though he may feel remorse for it. They're not going to turn it back and overturn it. They think it was great because they think as he said in the video, he couldn't foresee that people would come back to this idea that the poor are the problem, and that I believe is inherently the issue, is that they think poor people are the problem, and you know, rich people or wealth is a sign of prosperity and what's the other word? I guess kind of like entitlement. I can't think of the actual word, but it's like if you're rich, then you deserve, you know, all these good things. And if you're poor, then it's your fault and you don't deserve anything.
Right. Right. Then, you know, so it's like they use it to divide and demonize us. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
keep us divided. And so you make the poor, you know, again, you make them look like they're leeches living off the system. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid. I know there's some people out there that's milking the system. There are people that milk the system everywhere. That's just what some people do. For some reason, we got some people that think they can beat the system. They don't want to work. They don't want to do this. They want to get stuff for free, and they want to do whatever they can. And so, like they showed that one lady saying how she disguised herself to apply 4 or 5 different times or whatever. Some people are just evil, okay? I mean, but you can put things in place to kind of filter those people out. You know, don't make it. And I know some people be talking about some of these programs that they have to sign up for. There's so much paperwork they got to fill out, and they want to know every little detail and all this other stuff. Don't make it to where it's just so frustrating to apply for, but you should make it to where you can filter through and kind of keep an eye on people to notice that when people are doing something, that if they're doing something deceitful, you'll catch it. Because I'm gonna tell you, so this past Sunday, our church served at one of the centers that serve food to the homeless. And this, matter of fact, it's crazy. So this is Wake County. So Wake County has a program called Jesus. I think Oak City Cares. I think that's what it is. Oak City Cares. And it's a program that homeless can come and they can uh, kind of have a place where they can come wash their clothes, get something to eat, take a bath, shower, um, get assistance and things of that nature. Um, and we have asked, because we have different programs that we've been trying to help the homeless. And so when we were going out to the camps, homeless camps, we was asking some of the people had they even used Oak City. And quite a few of them had said that, they didn't really like Oak City's program because it was too intrusive, or they asked you to jump through so many hoops just to get assistance. So I've never applied. I don't know. I'm just going by what they said. Um, so going back to what we was talking about, when people apply for assistance, they make it so entailed that it's so frustrating that a lot of people just don't want to go through that,
Yeah.
that they just don't do anything. But back to what I was saying about Sunday, so we was serving for the homeless, and I mean it was a whole lot of them. And I'm just sitting back and I'm looking at all these people, man, all these people, from elderly folks that's got those push walkers, to young mothers with their kids. It was that broad of a range there at this facility, and it was packed. And they got it set up to where you catch the city bus and it'll bring you and drop you off right there. And so it's like it was three buses that we was waiting on to bring people to feed them. And I'm just looking and I'm thinking to myself, so here these people are. This is my conclusion, and you can let me know how you feel, or maybe you have your own idea. My conclusion is that we we don't try to find we don't try to find the cause. We just try to put something out there that supposedly puts a band-aid on the problem. The homeless initiative, there's a reason for this. There's a problem that stems way far more than what these people think it does. One of them is the working wage, that a person can't just get them a job. They're going to need about 3 jobs just to survive. And we ain't talking about thriving or being able to do things in America. We're talking about just to keep a roof over your head, just to keep food in your refrigerator, just to be able to maintain your children in some type of clothing and some kind of school or whatever the case might be. You're gonna probably have to work about 2 or 3. If you and your wife are working, then you may have to take on another job, depending on what you're making an hour or what kind of company you're working for. So you come up with these programs, but it's just a band-aid. The initial thing is that y'all do all this research, talking about the government, they do all this research. Maybe they need to research on the extent of what causes all this in the first place. And if we can cut it off there, we probably wouldn't have the homeless problem because it's a problem. There was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It really broke my heart that these many people are homeless, and this is probably the only decent meal that they had for today. And then they got to do this all over tomorrow. And then we had to go, what we had left over, we had to take it next door to the men's shelter is right next door to this other building, Oak City Cares. The men's shelter is right next door, the Wake County Men's Shelter. And so we went over there. Man, it's like going into a prison. It's like county lockup. You got to get wanted in to go in. Everything is like, it's like going into a prison. The beds are all like in a prison cell. And I'm thinking to myself, and people, this is their life. This is what they live for day in and day out. Why can't we figure out, for some people, I know there's mental issues for some people. I know for some people, it's drugs and alcohol. But for some people, it's just the unfortunate things of life that has happened to them that has caused them to be where they be. But there was a lot of young folks in there too. Like I'm assuming between the age of 25 and 35. There was a whole bunch of them in there. And these people, some of them are working. I know some people that we talk to, they're working. They're actually going to work every day. They go to work and then they come here to shower and get something to eat. And then they go find somewhere where they can lay down and sleep for the night. For those that don't have a car and they sleep in their car.
Yeah.
And so we need to go the extra mile as a society. We need to go the extra mile to even find out, how did these people get in? This is why I'm saying, so people that apply for assistance, they need to have a liaison. What's the people we call them? Talk on it. People you talk to.
Oh, like a caseworker?
There you go. Thank you. So you need a case. Thank you. There you go. That's why you on the podcast. A caseworker that can sit down and build a relationship with you and find out what's going on and build that trust to where you feel comfortable to tell them what's going on and they can work with you and truly get you on your feet. Because for some people, it's just a matter of education. You know what I'm saying? Teaching them a skill. So you figure the state, you got all these businesses. So why don't the states go around to these businesses and solicit, hey, y'all got these jobs and whatever. Can you hold so many jobs? Let us know what training that they need, and we're going to train these people, or we'll work with you to get these people trained. And you know what I'm saying? It's a way that we can do this to get people in jobs, get them on their feet, and get them feeling human again. Because I just can't imagine being homeless, for the rest of my life, which some of these people have been homeless for a while. So anyway, that's my spiel. What do you think about it?
I agree. So in the video, they said that they put in some rules after Bill Clinton signed it. It was harsh. It was very harsh. They could be no more than, I wrote that down too. What was it? 2 years or something? So it's basically said they couldn't be no more than 2 years or 5 years over a lifetime, and they would kick them out regardless if they had a job.
Right.
I think a lot of the issue is low paying jobs. So you got, like you said, you got a bunch of people work $8, $9 an hour. They need 2 or 3 jobs. Unfortunately, I've seen this happen. We got a rehabilitation center here in Durham, and they employ, so it's called TROSA, and some people
Oh yeah, I know them. Yeah.
And they have a few different like businesses that they run. They got, they cut grass, they move.
Moving company, yep. We use them, yep.
And so I know a dealership that hired some of those guys. They would hire the TROSA people. Wouldn't pay them a whole lot. and I think they may have got a write-off. So that also need to stop. Like just exploiting people. You know, me personally, I can't kick a person when they down.
Right.
Um, so we need some provisions on that end to where people aren't exploited because this person over here just wants to make some extra money. Um, but I agree with the whole the training, like the training aspect behind it. It started off as a good idea, and it seemed to help.
Mhm.
Um, I think you give people jobs and they make money, they're gonna put all the money back into the economy anyway. So I mean, it helps everybody.
Right. So then why don't we just take it even one step further? Why don't we just even go back, turn the clock back? Why are we not investing in our schools?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Schools is that right there, you probably would prevent, and I'm just saying, you probably prevent 90% of your issues when it comes to homelessness and job skills and all that. You probably prevent it. The other 10%, some people just sorry and lazy. And so you're not going to do anything with them. But that 90%, so I know in Wake County they had and you could probably talk on this because I think you were saying that you knew about some of the programs. So they came up, I know when we was in high school, they was coming up with programs that made sense. So like I know when we was graduating, they had at that time I think it was nursing and something else. But I know nursing. And so you apply for this program and once qualified, you was on this like fast track program. And so from I want to say the ninth grade, I think it was ninth grade or 10th. Well, ninth grade, and I think it went on. But you was in this program during the summer, you was at the community college taking classes, and you was also interning at the hospital. And then during the school year, you take your core classes, and then you had the training classes for your occupation nursing. When you graduated, you had your associates, I think. And if you wanted to get your bachelor's, all you had to do was like 2 years at a college or your community college if you wanted to go that far. But to go through that program, they would only ask you to work, I think, 2 or 3 years at whatever facility that was sponsoring this or whatever. And so you went through this program. Not only did you get the training and got all this job skills and all this during your high school years, now you got a job to go to and work and get more skills to further your education or whatever the case might be and continue to thrive and go on and go on. We also had trades.
Yeah.
Some people got some issues about trades. They say they're training us just to be workers or whatever. Um, but somebody has to do the work. Somebody has to do the carpentry. Somebody has to do the electrician. Somebody has to do the plumbing. Somebody has to do the automotive uh, mechanic work. Somebody has to do it. And so these were programs that you can get into to get that trade. When you left high school, you was qualified to go into these fields. You didn't have to continue to go to school unless you just wanted to further your training. And so I think the problem is when some people talk about trades or whatever the case might be, the other part of that puzzle is to also train our children uh financial wealth,
Yeah.
money management, things that you need to take a hold of at a young age. Because if I had to listen and not been a knucklehead and listen to this one guy that was saying, man, he said, if you just don't do nothing but put $50, $50 in a mutual fund, whatever, at age 20, he said, by the time you hit 40, you'd be a millionaire at just $50, and that's just based on the rate of growth, the economy, or whatever the case might be. You'd be set at 40, and whatever other retirement or things you can invest in, invest in. Of course, I didn't listen because I was stupid. But this is the things that we teach. We should be teaching, and so this would keep our economy going because, like you said, if people got money, they're going to spend it. But we need to teach them how to make that money, how to keep that money, and not get into debt for that money. And then your economy and your economy and the people will be thriving because they'll know how to manage their money. And when they manage that money, they got it to spend. Trust me, they will spend it. So I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that back to your point about investigating the root cause instead of just slapping a band-aid on it, I think there are quite a few people who understand the root cause. The issue is good people don't normally get into politics. And that's kind of the sad way of it, but they don't. So we get these people who they come into politics and they project their own issues into law, which in turn hurts a group of people, whatever, certain group of people, working people, whatever. I don't think that. Um, well, let's just use this for an example. You had you had Bernie Sanders and both Elizabeth Warren running to be Democratic nominee at one
Right.
point, and they both had policies that would have helped working people. They weren't picked. I still believe that they kept saying that Bernie couldn't beat Trump. I don't believe that at all. He's way more popular than Trump is, way more, and he had policies that actually were going to help people, and he's got integrity. He's literally been the same for like his whole life. You can go back and look at videos of him young, and he's still saying the same thing.
He's not going back and forth, and he's not just going with the policy that just to please the party.
The
He
donors,
has
yeah.
his own convictions. Yeah.
So quite honestly, I just don't. I think that there's a lot of people up there in politics that, for one reason or another, they don't really want to help. Maybe some of them do look at poor people as the problem, and maybe some of them are just uh, writing these laws that help their donors because they're going to get, essentially they're going to get bribes. But we know that's what happens, but they don't say that. They don't say that that's what happened. Look at Clarence Thomas and all the stuff that's been coming out about him.
Yeah. Yeah. All of a
And
sudden, you're getting these elaborate trips. Um, all of a sudden, you get brand new vehicle. Um, you're taking trips on these exotic boats, going different places. You're not paying for all that off of your Supreme Court salary. So where is it coming from?
yeah, and when you talked about like the training programs for the kids, now if we're gonna preach education for for my generation, they pushed us to go to college, like the whole generation.
Right.
So if we're gonna say that education is the end all be all, and we're not funding these schools, then it's kind of hypocritical. So we're gonna take money out of these public schools, and a lot of these people, they're poor, so they don't have any other resource.
No, they don't. It's sad. So, and you think about it. So write down on a piece of paper your expenses. If you got two kids and you're trying to work, those two kids got to go to daycare. And daycare is how much? How much were they going to charge you?
Uh, it was like $800-900 a week, something like that.
$800 to $900 a week. Hold on, because I'm slow. I'm gonna break out, okay, because I want to see something. Because this is what the politicians should be doing when they want to. We'll go on the low and we'll say here. And so you're talking about $3,200 a month for child care. That's just to put your child in daycare. Not saying that they're going to feed them right. They're not going to teach them anything. That's just so your child can be in a building being watched by somebody. Hopefully they're trained. Hopefully they'll make sure that your kid don't swallow nothing and stay safe. But this is what you got to pay. $3,200 a month for, this was one child. So God forbid you have two, but we're just going with one child. So that's $3,200 a month. If you are making $10 an hour and you're only getting, because most, and that's the other thing, most of these low wage jobs, they're not even 40-hour a week jobs. They're like 31, 36. So we just say you work 36 hours. So that's $360 a week. And say you get paid every 2 weeks. So now you're talking about $720 every 2 weeks. All right. So you don't even work enough to pay for childcare. And you take taxes out of that. So I didn't take taxes if you work. And so do the people in DC even sit down and try to put this on paper to find out the math doesn't work.
Yeah.
This doesn't work. We're just talking about childcare. If you putting food in your house, that can average anywhere from, now the way food done went up, you're talking about maybe $350 a month or higher to put food in the house. Well, shoot, that's probably every 2 weeks you spend.
So I want to say, I might have quoted wrong. I just looked up some average costs now. This, I did a Google search and it broke some of them down in different, like different companies.
Mm-hmm.
The highest on here is you can pay anywhere from $380 to $1,000 a month. One of them is $330 per week. But that is one child though.
Okay.
Now you talk about, of course, private daycare would be more expensive. Like, the way some of these high end places will be way more expensive.
Right.
Um, but the one around the corner from us, my wife, she called them. I want to say it was like $1,400 a month.
A month, $1,400 a month.
Yeah,
Okay, and even still,
that's still a lot of money.
yeah. Okay, so $1,400 a month. A person making $10 an hour, like I said, is working 36 hours. That's 300, so it's $720 every 2 weeks. And so if you get paid, twice a month, you know, so
You ain't saving a
that's
whole lot of money.
1,400. You worked enough just to pay child care. That's what you did. That one person worked enough to pay child care.
Yep.
So, I mean, so there's a problem. And y'all want to demonize people and talk about how they're the working poor and all this other stuff. There's a reason why they're the working poor. Because y'all ain't paying them enough.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I know, I think they say, people open businesses and, you don't want government in business, to dictate this and that. But I think at some point they got to get involved, because if I'm a company that the product that I make makes me tremendous profits, but I choose to pay you minimum wage or wage way below whatever. And people want to talk about, well, it's about the skills and whatever. I think we need to rethink that. I don't think it should be about also the skills. I think it should be about how you want to live. Again, I think that the minimum wage should be comparable to, in your area, if it takes $40,000 just to survive, to have an apartment, because the apartment is $1,300 a month. Food is averaging for a family of three, $600 a month. Just a basic Toyota Corolla might cost you $220, maybe $300 a month. Car note case might be, you got to have insurance, you got to pay for health care. So when you add all that up, I think a person should be able to work, that goes to work, that job should at least meet the minimum.
Yeah.
Meet the minimum. Anything above that, then you'll need to get skill sets, whatever the case might be. But I think a job, if you're offering employment, that job should meet the minimum basic living standards for your area, because it differs from area to area. Because like, case in point, so the Dollar General, everybody loves the Dollar General. Every time I go into the Dollar General, they got signs now. They're always, ever since COVID, they've been looking for people. At least the one over here where I live at. They always got a sign. They're looking for people. They're always short. I can't, I can't look at these people that work at Dollar General any lesser than I see somebody that work at Harris Teeter or somewhere down, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're trying to make a living just like everybody else. So why would I look down on them because they're working at, if this is what they can get, at least they out here working. They're not trying to suck the system dry.
Yeah.
But these people come to work religiously. I see the same people in there every time I go in there. Why is it that they can't come to that job and at least be able to work and meet the basic minimum requirements in order to survive? People have to leave Dollar General and go to another job and work another 6 hours maybe, because there's only 24 hours in a day. You got to get sleep at some point. Some people look like they work around the clock just to make sure they have a roof over their head. So you tell me, Mr. Quentin, where can we fix this? What can we do to fix this?
Honestly, I think regular working people are gonna have to get together. They're gonna have to organize, and they're gonna have to demand more, because they're not just gonna give it to us. And speaking about Dollar General, I just pulled up their revenue from, let's see, fiscal year ended February 3rd, 2023. So this is last year, but still, their revenue was $37.88 billion. They have 185,000 employees. They can afford to pay them a little bit more. We need laws to where, like, well, first of all, we need to stop lowering the taxes on these corporations, because that's part of the problem too. We lower the taxes on them, they don't pay virtually any tax. Or they pay less. Um, Amazon didn't pay taxes at all one year. And my question, since COVID, you would see news headlines of companies have made record profits, more profits, record highs in like the last 50 years. How did y'all make this much money if everything was shut down and your sales were supposedly down? But we watched that video the other day where they raised the prices. They raised them and they pushed the cost to produce the product onto the customer. That's how they made all their money.
Yep. blame it on supply chain and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But now they're saying that things have gone back to somewhat normal. It might not be at normal like it was, but you shouldn't have to be charged what you're charging. But what did they do? They kept right on charging you that high price, even though it's not costing them what it was several years ago to make that product. But what do? They pass it off to you because they love that money. That profit margin was looking good. They sitting back there in their corporate office. Oh, we hit X amount of billions of dollars, and they're celebrating. You think they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, we can put stuff back the way it was? No, they're going to keep on because now the CEO, the FSO, the DEA, and all the rest of them letters up there, and they can now max their bonuses out, max their salaries out, and us, the common man, is the one that gets screwed. We get screwed. Hey, do you know Dr. Umar?
Yes.
I like Dr. Umar. And actually, a lot of stuff that he talks about, I do agree with. The only thing I don't agree with is some of his division.
Yeah.
Talks about different stuff. I kind of leave him on that platform, but he always talks about the organized vote, and he is so right.
Yeah.
It is the organized vote that makes a difference. Even though they teach you, they say you one vote, they say your vote counts. Yeah, your vote counts, but it's the organized vote that makes the difference. That's why you got the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. When you glob those votes together, it makes a difference then. But you take a true, like Cornel West, I really believe he can make a dent if he can get his voters organized. And he can do it. And he can do it just like Obama did. Obama used social media to organize, and it didn't cost him as near much as doing a regular campaign because he did everything through social media.
Yeah.
And that's how he raised money, and he was raising. If I remember the documentary they did, he was only people was sending like $2, but you're talking about $2 for millions of people. That adds up. I really believe Cornel West, if he started a social media campaign, hopefully he'll hear this. I don't know. If anybody y'all know Cornel West, send this to him.
Yeah.
If he starts um a social media campaign and really put his platform out there, I think he'll make a dent. And I really think he'll get enough votes to defeat both of these people that's running.
Yeah.
Harris and Trump. Because he truly has good intentions too. Because his thing is about fairness for all. And you're right, Quentin, as far as tax. See, that's the other thing. Everybody's not paying their fair share in taxes. But we could fix that. Again, this is a fixable thing. All you got to do is, first of all, do away with what we're doing now. Just watch everything and just make a standard 10% based on whatever your profits or whatever you make. 10% across the board. You can't get no fairer than that because you're going to pay 10% on your 20,000. I'm going to pay 10% on my 40,000. They're going to pay 10% on their millions. They're going to pay 10% on their billions. It's fair. If you made $1 billion, you just pay 10% of your billion. If I make 20,000, I'm going to pay 10% of my 20,000. We never will have an issue with funding for the infrastructure ever again in life if they did that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I don't know. What's your thoughts, brother?
Yeah. Somebody proposed a flat tax one time before, but you got people who are they have vested interest in not passing stuff like that, so they'll fight against it. Also about the organized vote, I've always said that, if you get enough people together, and Ralph Nader actually mapped it out, and he said it doesn't take no more than about 3% of the population. If you get about 3% of the population together, that's all you need to turn it around. But that's my thing, you know, instead of doing the playing the whole lesser of two evils. Okay, if most of the country don't want either one of these people, take your vote and put it to somebody that is actually talking about doing changing things for the people. Go that way. Because it was the Trump and the Hillary campaign, presidential race. They said something like 48% of the country didn't vote. I get it. I can empathize with them. I get it. It's you see everything going on. Prices are getting higher. Wages aren't going up. You just say, "Oh, okay, well, this doesn't matter." But if you can get those people to organize their vote, one specific person, then I think if an independent got a good portion of the vote of votes, then it will force the Democratic and Republican Party to respond. They would have to respond because they see, I mean, they will probably respond out of fear, but they will respond because they see their power, they're losing power. Um, also, we talk about organizing the vote, we talk about just regular working people. You have regular working people who these things will benefit, but they won't vote for it also. Like I'll talk to people and they'll tell me, well, the government isn't supposed to take care of you. Okay, well, I, you know, I don't believe that. I'm not. And my thing is, we have such a limited view and barely any education on politics and economics that people just think it's just handouts. Like a lot of people aren't talking about just giving people free money. We're talking about resources. So if the government isn't supposed to provide the structure for a society, then what's the purpose in having a government?
Yeah.
Just let everybody do whatever they're gonna do. There's no purpose for it. And my question always is, um, what kind of society do we create? Are we creating if we take away, if we stop paying taxes and we take all welfare away? What kind of society are we creating? You know, what does that look like? What are the people going to do? Because we know that when there's higher rates of poverty, there's more crime. And on the other side of that, you have people who are already wealthy. You know, what becomes of them? Do they just keep taking even more and more? Does the divide get even between rich and poor grow even more? They just let people starve? I mean, what happens? So just to say that the government is supposed to take care of you, I believe it's a reactionary statement. You're saying it because you're angry about something. Maybe you pay more taxes. Maybe you do see people who get food stamps and you're angry at them. And you say, well, I'm paying these taxes and I still can't live. Okay, but don't be mad at those people. Be mad at the people that make the laws. And that goes back into actually organizing your vote. Like I'm not, and that's considered punching down. I'm not going to punch down. I can't be mad at these people when, especially when you watch videos like we just watched, where people are making $8, $9 an hour. You can't live off that.
No.
Now the solution would be to get these people together and you organize with them. And like you said about when they talk about, the wage should be based on skill level. There were people angry because they were talking about, oh, you're gonna make $20 an hour to flip burgers. Okay, if they make $20 an hour to flip burgers, you take that and you go to your company and you say, all right, look, these people make $20 an hour to flip burgers. I want more money than that too. But don't beat them down because they're making more money.
Right.
That's just how I feel about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know they tried to say, well, these fast food industry was jobs for, high school kids and college kids to get them through and so forth and so on. Well, that's not the case no more, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
That's not the case no more. These are jobs now that people need in order to survive. It ain't about just, high school kid or whatever. This is about survival. You've had so many companies leave the United States. There's part of your problem there. You need to put a hold to that. That companies would uproot, leave here to keep from paying decent wages, move overseas to where there's no regulations, they can do whatever they want. They're paying those governments off, pretty much. I'm pretty sure they're giving them that's why they allow them to come over there and do whatever, because that money's going to that government, and they're greedy and they're powerful, and they'll take that money, let you work their people for little or nothing, and then you ship those products back over here to sell. But you're selling them to who? Because the people that were buying stuff and consuming stuff, you took their jobs away.
Yeah.
So who's consuming?
Now they're
I
stealing.
mean, it's a vicious cycle. I think that you should have something in place that, I'm not saying that you want to diversify and maybe build you another plant in Malaysia. That's fine. But don't close your plant here, because my thing is, if you don't have a operating facility here in America and you decide to go on somewhere else, that's your business. But I guarantee you this, when you ship your stuff back over here, boy, I'm gonna tax the mess out of you. As long as you got a company here that's providing jobs and stability for the people, then you want to open up another business over here in Malaysia, then do what you got to do. That's no problem. I could see what you're trying to do. But to just shut your business down totally and move somewhere else to Mexico or whatever, because you can hire cheap labor and keep more of the profits. You try to ship that back stuff over here, man, I'm gonna tax the mess out of you. I'm just gonna tell you, you don't have no, because you don't have a vested. See, this is the other thing. They always talk about America great. Well, that right there, they don't have a vested interest in America. Where's their vested interest? They took their company and went somewhere else, and now they want to ship the products here for you to buy, and you don't even have a job no more. The vested interest is here. Same with China. Everybody talks about China, but they're allowing the stuff to come over here, back over here. They don't have to. They can tax the mess out of them before they, but you know. So see, people are in bed with other people. Y'all need to realize that a lot of stuff that's going on, y'all think it's just the way the economy is going. You tell me, what sense does it make that for China, for us to get strategic military electronic components from China to go into our weapons? Do that even make any sense? And then we use them. That's what I understand. You're getting stuff from China, and then you worrying about where they're infiltrating our security system. They're flying weather balloons over here, spying on us. People, wake up. These people that are politicians, that's why you need to stop voting on politicians. You need to vote real people into these offices. But you got these, they're in bed with a lot of these people. China, these people are in bed with each other. That's why a lot of this stuff is being allowed. That's why China does what they do. Now their economy is booming and doing all this stuff over there, and they're shipping stuff over here, and we're consuming it. Why? Because it's cheaper items that we can afford. That's why Walmart is so popular, because they get their stuff from overseas and they're able to sell it for little or nothing. Same with Amazon. They're able to get their stuff from overseas and sell it. And matter of fact, not only get it from overseas, allow Amazon to be a portal for other companies to sell their stuff from for little or nothing. And you reap the profits. You know, they make something, it might cost them, I'm just throwing something out, it might cost them $5 to make, $10 to make. They sell it for $25. That's a hell of a profit margin. And when your outlet gives you access to the whole world, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. If I make something for $10 and I can sell it to you for $20 or $25, but I can actually put it in this portal and it sends it out to the whole world. I can afford it. That's why Amazon don't have a problem when you return stuff. Matter of fact, sometimes they'll tell you to keep it. They'll just tell you to keep it. We're gonna send you another one. Just keep it. We'll send you another one. It's no problem because it's costing them nothing. The profits that they make far, far outweighs what they're losing, giving you whatever or whatever the case might be. Wake up, people. Wake up. Organize.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Organize.
Yeah.
Why you think the LGBTQ, LMNOPQ people are getting what they want? Because they're organized. And they're big enough because now the politicians are looking at them. These are votes.
Yep.
These are large number of votes. And so guess what? I guess we need to cater to them because these are votes. You're talking about 20 and 30,000 point whatever votes per area when these people organize. I'm sure it's more than that. I'm just throwing out a number. But now they are they're a vital part of the voting system because these are votes. They're organized. And that's why they're getting the attention that they're getting from politicians. That's why they have no problem making a policy for them. Oh yeah, we need to have same sex and we need to do this and we need to do that because these are votes. They're organized votes. So if people, Black, Hispanic, Asian, band together and become a political power block of votes, guess what? They'll start listening to you too. And
Yep.
all of a sudden, they'll start putting things in place for you because they want your vote. That's how it works. Tell
Yep.
me if I'm wrong, Quentin. Ain't that how it works?
No, absolutely. But you know, the ignorance of the average American, we see this stuff on TV, and you know, we get mad at the people. We don't get mad at the process or the politicians. It's just like China. Uh, these companies, these companies send their products over there to get made, or they make them over there and they bring them back. And when we unwrap them over here in the States and we see three-quarters of everything that say made in China, we get mad at the Chinese, but we don't get mad at the people that sold it to them,
Yep.
that allowed them to do it.
You're right. You're right, brother.
And I pulled up, I did a Google search because I remember hearing this sometime a while ago about the cost what it costs to make Air Jordans, a popular shoe, right?
Yeah, very popular.
So they're manufactured in China, and it says they reportedly cost Nike a bit more than $16 a pair. The Air Jordan 10s are listed on Amazon for $250 to $550 a pair, depending on the style and color.
You gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You just proved my point. Thank you. This is recorded. This is going to make history. You just proved my point. And this is what we allow to happen because we're not paying attention to what's going on. America, that's why we started this podcast. Y'all need to wake up and y'all need to stop listening to these people because all they do is divide us and create division. And it takes you off focus on what you really should be looking at. Do your research and start finding out what's going on because we are being played, people. We have been played for years, just like in the video. So back when they even initiated this welfare program, it was to help widow mothers with children, which was the platform. And it kind of just springboarded into morphifies what it is today. And it went through a lot of changes. And so you look through that span of history, all they did was just demonize poor folks because they made it seem like they're the reason your taxes are going up. You know, your taxes are going up because we have to support the welfare system, and that's a lie. That's not what they're doing with the tax dollars, but that's what they would tell you. That due to the burden of the welfare system, you know, your taxes are being raised and, you know, these poor folks are just out here sucking on the system and so forth and so on. And that was not the case. And it's not the case today. People are in desperate need. I know I'm out there. I know they're in desperate need. This ain't about milking the system. It's about we just can't make it. And that's not that I don't want to make it, but this the way the system in this society and the process is set up, man, I don't know what to do. Just think now, Roland Martin and the black men that organized that campaign to raise money for Campbell, and they raised all this money. Same with the Deltas and the other women's sorority, they raised all that money for the Harris campaign. If these people really cared, their focus would not have been on raising money for their campaign, but that money could have been used to build affordable housing. Because that's what we need now. Since the government don't want to regulate housing, we can be combining our forces and buying land and building affordable housing that we set a $600, $700 a month for a 2-bedroom and cap it at that, manage it, maintain it, keep it well up, make sure it's taken care of and taken care of and maintained and all that good stuff, and get some of these people out of poverty, because they're not going to get out of poverty trying to pay $1,300 and $1,400 a month in rent. But I think for a 2-bedroom, I think that makes more than enough sense. $600 to $700 a month. Maybe that's too, I don't know. But I think $600, $700 a month for a 2-bedroom should that seems fair enough for me for the average person.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about you don't want to raise the minimum wage, but you don't have no housing for them to afford them at minimum wage. So if we're not affording them housing at what they're making, what do you have to do? You have to raise their wages in order to accommodate the standards of today. So you got two things, America. Either you're going to truly build affordable housing that people can afford, that's making $10 an hour, or you need to raise the $10 an hour so that they can afford the housing that's being provided. And I think that's a fair choice. What about you, Quentin?
Yeah, no, I agree. So this actually happened in DC. So they was gentrifying DC and they started building all these expensive houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my wife lived up there. She has friends up there now. And the native people, the native, folk of DC sued the city and won because they couldn't afford the prices no more. And so now when they build these high rises, a certain percentage of them have to go to DC natives, and they don't pay regular market price for them. Now these are high rise apartments; they're expensive, but
Right.
they get to live there for about a fraction of the cost because
Thank
they
you,
had to
Jesus.
go to sue the city. But and my wife, she moved down here, and that's one thing she said when she moved down here. She said, I see it happening here. It already happened up north, and that's what the residents did to be able to afford it.
Organized. Yeah, because that's what they did downtown. Man, they gonna got so many high-rise condos down there, and can't nobody afford those things.
Mm-mm.
I know we looked at one. Oh my God, it was 400 some $1,000 for a condo. Are you kidding me? Just so I can live downtown.
Yeah.
But that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing downtown. They want to move everybody out. But you know what's funny about that now? So they're putting all this money into downtown, and they're putting all these high rises and trying to change the diversity of downtown, whatever. But yet they ain't they're not as of yet. But at this particular moment, they're not addressing the homeless problem, because any given time you go downtown, man, it is packed with
Yeah.
homeless people. It is packed. They have nowhere to go. And there's a lot of churches and what downtown that serves meals and things of that nature. And so they're just hanging around for their next meal. But how do you build and try to do all this to bring in money, these people that you're bringing from up north and from other places that's paying this kind of money to live, they're not going to want to see these homeless people out there. They're not. So what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a major drive to move these homeless people somewhere. I don't know where they're going to move them to, but at some point it's going to be a demand, because what's going to happen, just what we was talking about, they're going to organize. Those people are going to organize, and they're going to demand that the city do something about these homeless folks, because I want to come out to the park and feel safe. I want to come out to the park and be able to sit on the bench and not have to sit next to no homeless person. This is what's going to happen. And they're going to say, look, if you don't get rid of these homeless folks, we're going to vote somebody in that will. That's what they're going to do. And guess what? They're going to do some national movement or city movement to move these homeless people somewhere. I don't know where they're going to take them, but they're going to push them. They're going to force them out at some point. Watch and see what happens.
Well, in some cities, and people, a lot of folks have been talking about this, that they're starting to criminalize homelessness. So they're locking these people up. And if you look at some of the big cities, like I know New York is one, and I think LA, they're building architecture like chairs and whatnot, or benches outside of public spaces to where homeless people can't sleep. They're putting spikes in front of um, little areas in front of stores to where they would normally lay. They're putting
Yeah.
spikes there. They're building the benches a little bit smaller so they can't sleep on them. So they're locking a lot of them up. I mean, it's a mess. It's inhumane, you know. And these people, they're homeless. They are probably already feel like crap. It's just dehumanizing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to what we was talking about earlier, finding the root cause of the problem. We come up with these solutions, but they're just band-aids, and in some cases they're not even band-aids. It's
Yeah.
just we're just throwing money at it when there's a reason this is happening. For everything that goes on, there's a reason why. And that's what needs to be tackled. You need to tackle the reason why, what led to this. And like I said, a lot of this you can probably cut off at the school level, how we educate our children, what we're actually teaching them, and moving forward, and put a mindset of success and prosperity in them, and not feel defeated that, when I leave high school, I don't have no skills. I don't know what I want to do. A lot of them are not going into the military. What do I do? So they just bounce around and bounce around. Some of them haven't left home yet. They're working minimum wage jobs because that's all they can find, and it's not enough for them to uh, live on their own. So again, like I said, you want to keep minimum wage where it's at, then y'all need to build affordable housing that's comparable to their wage. Because if not, you're gonna have to raise their wage. That's why I said a 2 bedroom at about $700. Even if two people had to share it, at least they would have their own bedroom or whatever the case might be. They'd be able to afford it. But two people can't even afford a $1,400 uh,
Yeah.
apartment. So,
Yeah.
but you got to give them something to start with. You got to give them something. Right now, nobody has even a starting place. You can't even. You remember back in the day, they used to have what they call starter homes. There was just a basic 3 bedroom house. It wasn't nothing fancy. They called it a starter home, and it was very affordable. A family can move in, and then you would get this starter home, and then you would upgrade as you build, your family, whatever the case might be. Okay, well, we need a starter apartment. How about that? We need a starter
Yeah.
apartment, something that somebody can move into at this wage level, and then uh, build on that to do better. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just throwing out a hoop dream. I don't know.
No, no, I think you're saying what's right. You know, at one point it did seem like there was more resources for people. I met a couple recently who just moved down here from West Virginia, and they said the same thing. They said, you know how they talk about the starter home. He said there is no starter home. You know, there you gotta buy if you can afford it. You gotta buy a $400,000 house. There is nothing cheaper than that.
Right. No, it's not.
You might
And
get 350, and and if you get any lower, you're gonna be either out in the country in a trailer, or the house gonna need a whole lot of work to it.
yep. You're almost forced to live like way out in the boonies. So now you have the issue of commuting. Because if your job is in the city, you're driving, up to an hour in some cases to get to work. So now you've accumulated a gas bill and wear and tear on your car, um, in order to go back and forth to work because you have to live way out here to live somewhere that you can afford to live at. It's just a revolving door. It's crazy. It's like you're fighting against yourself. You do
Yeah.
this, but now I got to drive an hour to get to work. So I'm now burning more gas. I'm putting wear and tear on my car. I'm tearing my car up. And here in another year, I'm gonna need another car. I can't afford another car. You know, when does it stop? When does it stop?
That's the $1 million question.
Wow. My man, I tell you, these are the questions, and you know what's, and one last thing. So I really believe our politicians, and and they know this. Most of our politicians, I ain't gonna say all of them, but most of our politicians are so out of touch with America. And the reason I say that is because again, when they go home, they don't have these conversations. They're not worried about food, not worried about gas, they're not worried about paying their bills. They're not worried about any of the above. When they go home, they talking about the next trip they get ready to take. They're planning the next golf outing. They're doing everything else. But you, the American people, you that put your trust in these people and would swear by them to your dying day, you go home and you're complaining. You're wondering how you're going to pay your bills. And you're wondering how you're going to get your children to daycare and pay medical bills and all this other stuff. You, the American people, are the ones that have the conversation that need to be had up in DC at Congress when they make a lot of these bills and policies. But y'all fall for their rhetoric about how they are for you and we're going to change and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Case in point, so Harris was at a campaign. I just saw maybe the other day at one of her rallies that they're doing now, and she said that one of her proposals or one of her things she's going to do when she gets into office is one, she's going to raise the minimum wage. Good luck with that one. And uh, appeal or do away with taxing tips,
Yeah.
which I don't know why they even tax tips. I don't know how they even got into taxing tips, but she said they're going to, I guess there's a law or something she's going to put in that's going to not, you don't have to tax tips, which is great. It sounds good. And I'm sure everybody was like, yeah, yeah, especially waitresses and whatnot. Everybody like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But be aware, but everything they give you, something's going up to take that little bit that you're going to get away.
Yep.
Because every time you get a raise and every time there's any kind of shift in your pay, everything goes up. Your premiums goes up. Everything goes up. So whatever your raise you got, it was taken away because they just raised everything. Every time. Think about it. You think back. Every time you got a raise, every time you got any kind of increase, everything else went up. almost instantaneously. So now you're just in a higher tax bracket. You're still poor. You're just in a higher tax bracket of poorness.
Yep.
What you got to wrap up, sir? What's your final words?
None really. I think I've said it. Other than, I'm just gonna ask the question, when does it end? Something's gotta give.
Some got to give, because eventually you're going to have a, such a high rate of people within poverty and poor and homelessness. It's bound to explode. It's going to explode at some point.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, when people get desperate, they're going to do stuff, and so it's just going to be a war on the poverty in general, because people got to survive. People got to survive.
Yep.
They're not just going to roll over and die. They got to survive. And if you let this thing keep going like it's going, there's going to be an explosion. It's just going to be who's going to be on what side when it explodes. I don't know.
Yep.
So, but anyway, that's our take on welfare. That was a great discussion. I hope that it sparked some conversation. I hope some people actually take a hard look at what's going on and realize that there's got to be a change somewhere, because, like you said, where do we go from here? At some point, something's going to have to change. At some point, something's going to have to change, because we can't keep going like this. Housing can't just keep going up like it is, and you leave wages where they're at, and these people are working mad hours and can't even afford a place to rest their head. It's not. It's going to change at some point.
Yeah.
So anyway, we love you, people. Share this, like it, leave a review. I'm going to leave a link to that video in the description if you want to take a look at it. And they had other videos as well. When you pull it up, you'll see other videos of talking about different things that you can check out. And also, matter of fact, I'm gonna leave 3 links, because Quentin sent actually that video, and it was 2 other ones about the welfare system and so forth, and all of them are good. 2 of them kind of like almost similar, but the other one was a little bit different, and it kind of talked about another aspect of it. So I'm actually going to leave all 3 of those in the description. Click on them, review them, check them out, get educated, and remember, it's about you, but if we're not organized, it's not going to make a difference. And you definitely don't want to follow the herd. Herd mentality doesn't work. We got to get organized, and we got to stand as a group for something. That's why I say the LGBTQ community, the reason anybody's listening to them, the reason they get any momentum in what they do, and the reason that they can do what they want to do, because they are an organized group of people, and they look at them as votes. This is a block of votes that would help push them over the rail, and so that's why they cater to them. And so until other groups come together and start forming and making their voices heard, that this is what we want and this is what we're going to do, and if you can't help us, we're taking our vote elsewhere, I guarantee you we'll start seeing a change. Do away with the Democratic Party. Do away with the Republican Party. Everything needs to be independent. Put the best qualified candidate that has some ground roots, sensible ideas that's going to benefit the masses and not just the 1%. So that's all I got to say. You got anything to add there, Mr. Quinn?
I think that was good, and yeah, it was good.
All right, my friend. Well, look, we're out of here. Again, share, like, leave a review. Help this podcast get spread out across the nation. We are on the YouTube channel, Truth to Freedom Podcast, real talk from real people, for real people. Again, my name is James Parker, and I'm joined by my brother, Mr. Quentin Williams. And until the next time, We will see you later. Until then, God bless. Later, Mr. Quentin.
Later.